No, don't think repair, think design. So if you're Dr. Frankenstein creating a monster in a lab, that's what you're doing with this pre-match routine. What kind of neat things would you build into your mindset, into your emotions, into your behaviors to bring about a solid performance? Okay, so consistent thoughts, consistent words, consistent behaviors lead to consistent performance. So what we found is that if you there's four key ingredients to an excellent pre-match routine, and they are dynamic stretching, deep breathing, an element of fun, and hands-on drilling. So all four of those need to be elaborated on, and it's up to you to build all four of those elements into your pre-match routine. It's not like and remember, you don't want to be like it's not gospel. You don't need to be like you don't want to be perfectionistic. And I'm big on that because that was my thesis. My master's degree thesis was on perfectionism and anxiety in wrestlers. And we found that wrestlers that were more perfectionistic got more nervous, they did worse. Okay, so I want you to control the things you can control, but don't be superstitious about it. That's the word I was looking for. Don't be superstitious about it. In other words, you give yourself the best chance to perform well if you have a great pre-match routine. But if you didn't do it perfectly, you know, people have done it before. People have wrestled well without this, but you drastically raise your chances by doing this well. So that's why it's important you take the bull by the horns and control what you can control here. Okay, so first, your dynamic stretching. You want to do the same stretches every time in the same order. So you can work from the top of your head to the tips of your toes or reverse. And I do that because it keeps it flowing. It's easy to keep track of on my neck, on my shoulders, my torso and all that. So dynamic stretching as distinct from static stretching. Static stretching puts your neuromuscular system to sleep. Dynamic stretching wakes your neuromuscular system up. So when you wake up in the morning, you want to do dynamic stretching because you're trying to wake your body up. Before practice, before a match, before a lift, dynamic stretching. Now, that doesn't mean static stretching is bad. Static stretching is good when we're looking at the end of the night, after a workout, after a match. It improves your range of motion. So both are important. It's just the timing. It's the same thing. If you were a bodybuilder, having a carb is defined by what time you're eating it. You want to have you don't want to have a good. Normally throughout the day you want to have good carbs like like whole wheat and brown rice. But before a workout, you don't want to have a good carb becomes a bad carb. You want to have a simple carbohydrate, something that breaks down. You want to have the white bread before you practice, before you compete. You don't want to have a good carb like no, it's not that you don't have a good carb. It changes. What's a good carb? What's a bad carb depends on the timing. Same thing here with your stretching. So have the same stretch routine every time. And that will control also that you're physically ready. And also, while you're thinking about your stretching, you're not thinking about winning or losing, who you're going against, who's watching you in the stands. You know the stretches you're going through, and you know the words that you're telling yourself during the stretch. That's important. Know the words you're going to tell yourself during the stretch. And roughly from a scale of 1 to 10, what is your energy level like? So that's step one. You have your dynamic stretching. Step two, having some kind of element of fun. Key ingredient. Normally before a match or a performance, we tend to take ourselves way too serious. Think about if you're asked to speak in front of a group of people. We get nervous, right? Or if you have to read in front of your class, asking someone out on a date before a match, taking a test before a job interview, you name it. Any kind of quote unquote pressure situation, that's where we begin to take ourselves too serious, which is exactly, and what that does is that shuts down creative thinking. Have you ever tried to joke around with someone before a match and you notice they don't quite get your jokes? They're taking things too literally. They're not, a lot of times they don't get it. And why? Because they get that tunnel vision in the zone. And what you want to do is you want to break through of that, right? You don't want to have that kind of, I'm not saying it's not good to be in a flow state. That's good. But you don't want to get into that hyper tunnel vision, right? Yes, you do want it narrowed down, but sometimes people go, if this is your optimal zone, some people go here. You don't want to be like that. You want to make sure, especially in a sport like wrestling, it's open loop. In other words, it's not the same. If you were doing gymnastics, if you were doing diving, it's the same exact routine. There is no room for error. You have to perform a closed loop task. Wrestling's open loop. Anything could happen. They could shoot at you. They could dive up. They could dive on top of you. They could go upper body. Whatever. Anything could happen at any moment. So you need to be ready. You got to be ready at any point in time. So that's why on our end, we want to make sure that we're in a good mood. We don't want to take ourselves too serious. So that's where we're at. We want to make sure and to do that, you have to have some kind of element of fun, something that counteracts the nerves. So, you could put on, maybe if you listen to music, you could put on funny music. I changed the music I listened to drastically from high school to college. High school, I thought you had to be mad. I was listening to Eminem, Tupac, and like thinking you got to be Rocky, get myself real fired up. I mean, you see me at 39 right now. I have high energy now. Imagine when I was 15. I was nuts. Okay. I didn't need to do that. I needed to pull myself way back. I started listening to country music and Alvin and the Chipmunks and disco and things that made me smile and laugh. And lo and behold, I started wrestling better. And what I found was, at first I needed to pull it way back. And then eventually I found more of a balance. And what got me going was 80s music. And I found that that got me going like Rocky and Eminem and stuff. But at the same time, what it did was it kept the mood lighter. So it was more of like an easier feel. So be very careful. If you listen to music, you got to know what works for you. And if you're going too hard or if you have to pull it back. Okay, but that's not even an element of fun. The element of, that could be if it's a funny song. You could be joking around with a friend. You could break out some dance moves. Like physically do something to make yourself smile and laugh, to overcompensate for the nerves. That's very important. It's very simple. It's very practical. And a lot of people don't do it. Remember, here's the difficulty with things that are simple, right? It's funny to say right there. That's a joke right there. The difficulty with simple things. Anything that's easy to do is also easy not to do. And as a result, few people do it. Anything that's easy to do is easy not to do. And as a result, few people do it. So pride yourself not on being the talented guy. Pride yourself on being the guy who will do the simple and easy things that we're supposed to do. So have an element of fun. And, it doesn't matter what it is. Like I said, and the key is, a big reason why people don't do this, and if people can't think of it, I say, get some balls and just start juggling, right? And the reason why people don't do this, it's the emotion of fear. Like, what might I look like in front of people? I might look weird. I might look strange. And I tell people all the time, I'll get on the ground right now and bark like a dog if it helps me get my goals. All of you can laugh at me. I don't give a crap. All I care about is achievement, right? And I'm dead serious about that. I'll cluck like a chicken. I'll put a hat on and everything, because that's not going to stop me from achieving my goals. No way. And that's got to be your mentality. That I don't care. Like, I'll use any illicit means to achieve my goal. That's when you're going to be a very difficult person to beat if you're going to not let that get in the way. Okay, so you have your element of fun. Number 3, deep breathing. Make sure that you take about 2 minutes worth of deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth, and it should all be done in your stomach. In through your nose, out through your mouth. What you shouldn't be seeing is this. That's not proper breathing. When your shoulders move, that's not deep breathing. It's got to be in your diaphragm. Ask any singer. In through your nose, out through your mouth. And then what do you do during that time? You think about your breath. If you have to think of anything, go to your happy place, right? Whatever that might be. The beach, fishing, you could imagine a very comfortable room, whatever it might be. You have your 2 minutes of deep breaths, which will roughly be about 20 deep breaths. 2 minutes, but roughly 20. And like I said, just go to your happy place. And the idea, I would do this not when you're coming up, not when you're on deck, but when you're on double deck, just in case there's a quick pin. You don't need to get yourself ready. But while you're taking those deep breaths, everything in the world should disappear. You're focusing on breathing. And that's the simplest way to regain control of your energy. If you notice before a match, a lot of people, there's a lot of pacing around, like aimless pacing. We get real jittery, racing thoughts. our hands get all clammy and disgusting, right? You ever shake someone's hand before a match, and a lot of times it's just gross. Well, it's, this is one of the biggest things that you find your hands start getting nice and warm instead of being, a lot of times you shake someone's hand when they're nervous, they're ice cold. You after you take these deep breaths, your hands warm up, your mind quiets down, those jitters, those butterflies in your stomach, they feel like they go away. So you need about 2 minutes of deep breathing. You got to play with it. It's give or take, maybe a little more, maybe a little less for someone, but you got to take those good cleansing breaths. And then finally, number 4 is hands-on drilling. And I would do this when you're on deck. And the reason why here is, how many days a week in the season do you go live? Probably 6, right? This is coffee, by the way. I shouldn't be drinking coffee out of a plastic cup, but it's a bad look right here. But nonetheless, you go live 6 days a week, right? What do you usually do before you go live?
No.
Drill. Yes, you normally drill before you go live. So what do you think you should, if 6 days a week, your pattern is drill, go live, drill, go live, drill, go live. What do you think you should do before a match, before you go live?
No.
Right? Consistent thoughts, consistent words, and consistent behaviors, right? So that's important for you. You want to get human contact. I can't emphasize this enough. And if you think back, search your memory bank, this happens all the time. You see good wrestlers. I remember being at certain dual meets where 2 guys, I know they were going to wrestle. They were the last match for 2 hours. Neither of them touched another human being. There was no physical contact. And then the first period, 0-0. A 3-minute, how could that be? A 3-minute period, 0-0. No major scrambles, no flurries, no major shot attempts. What does that mean? You weren't ready. You weren't ready. A key point, this is something I want you to remember, that you need to get your motor running before you step onto the mat. Get your motor running before you step on the mat. You never want to get into a situation where you're easing your way into a match or feeling the other guy out. Why are you feeling another guy out? You should be imposing your will right away. That's soft. That's reactive. That's defensive. That's prey mindset. That's wussy square material. Okay? What you want to do is you want to be imposing your will from the first whistle. Remember, 15 seconds from a whistle, that's when points are likely to happen. My coach in college, Zeke Jones, now at Arizona State, he always said that. He did an analysis of world championships, NCAA championships. Most takedowns happen within 15 seconds of a whistle start, meaning in the beginning of a period, out of bounds, stalemate, whatever, potentially dangerous. 15 seconds, there it is, right? 15 seconds, usually a score. That's where most scores happen. So when you step on the line, you got to be ready. You got to be hard ready. So so that's why you should be looking to, and I remember having a conversation about this with Greg Jones, who's a 3-time NCAA champion from West Virginia. Now he's in Florida, owns a mixed martial arts UFC type gym. And for him, he said he made the comment on our YouTube show that he wanted to make sure that his opponent felt a hard shot in 15 seconds. And I agree with that philosophy, with few exceptions for people. So you should be looking, and that's why instead of thinking about winning the match, forget about winning the match. When you step on the line, get to your tie-up, get to your shot. What are you doing with your hands? If I don't know that answer, and this is, again, a Zeke Jones thing, a John Smith thing. John Smith talks about this. You look on YouTube, and as well as other coaches, like, what are you doing with your hands? Most people don't have a plan. And then they just lay soft hands on the guy. What are you doing with your hands? So when you step on the line, forget about winning. Get to your tie-up, get to your shot. And it doesn't mean rush. I'm not saying rush. That's don't misinterpret that. What I'm saying is decisiveness, deliberateness. That's the key. Bring the heat. Make him feel the heat right away. Most people just can't handle that kind of physical and mental pressure. Be the guy who's going to impose your will. Look, if you're wrestling Jordan Burroughs right now, let's face the facts. Not good. Okay? Not good. But that's okay. That's okay. I could be right. Who cares if I wrestle Jordan Burroughs right now? The point is this. Am I going to shoot or not? Right? Am I going to step on the line thinking, oh boy, here comes a double, right? Or am I going to say, okay, my best takedown's a low single in 15 seconds. I'm going to set it up. I'm going to shoot. I'm going to shoot a low single. Now he might easily spin around me. I might be way too slow, but I could choose in my head. It's not going to be a double. He's going to have to stop my shot. That's what I mean about being hardcore. Like, bring the heat to them. Bring the action. You create the action in that first 15 seconds. Not rushing, but get to your tie up, get to your shot. Bring the action. And when you think back, a lot of your most disappointing matches, just go through your history. Most of your disappointing matches were not, oh man, I brought too much to the guy. I took too many chances. No, almost no one says that. And like I said, we haven't worked with thousands of wrestlers. We've worked with tens and thousands of wrestlers. That most people, their biggest regrets are, I didn't do enough. I could have done more. I mean, so, if that's the case, get out there and do more right away. Commit yourself. You have to make, and this is a decision you make. This is an act of the will. It's a decision you make before you step on the mat. I'm going to do a lot this match. I'm going to do a lot. And I think that's a healthy philosophy to live by, to compete by, to train by. Like, I am going to create action because it takes the pressure off winning. I am going to be a person of action. But I think it really puts the ball in your court and increases your chances, because who knows what the other guy's thinking, and who cares, frankly. That your mentality is, I'm coming for you, right? That you could control. And if you're wrestling Jordan Burroughs, so what if you still get tech 10-0? So what? At least you had a good attitude going in, and you weren't a wuss like most people, and just like, oh man, I'm just going to get beat real bad. No, get beat real bad while you're trying very hard, right? That to me is a hard mentality, as opposed to the softness, right? Where, oh, whatever. So you got to drill with someone for, I would say, definitely at least 30 seconds, but probably more like 1 or 2 minutes. It doesn't have to be hard, but you got to feel someone pulling on your head. You got to get slapped around a little bit, and you got to get your hands on them. And the reason why, when you're doing this drilling before a match, is then when you step into a mat, when you step into wrestle, it feels like a continuation of your drilling, just like it does in practice. Now, there's one big reason why a lot of people won't do this. And again, it has to do with the emotion of fear. Most people are afraid that if I drill before the match, I'm going to get tired. And the way I would challenge that is, I would say, search your memory bank and think back to how many matches you came off the mat saying to yourself, I just couldn't do it. I could not wrestle anymore if someone put a gun to my head, right? Like, if this match went into overtime, I wouldn't be able to wrestle. No, almost no one says that. I had nothing left in the tank. I absolutely couldn't wrestle anymore. No. But there's a lot of wrestlers who come off the mat and said, I wish I would have wrestled in the first period the way I wrestled in the third period. Sound a little familiar? And again, it's not like rocket science. I've lived it. I know what it's like. Very few times you come off the mat, I had nothing left. Very many times we come off the mat, upset, crying, we want to throw our headgear, we want to get mad, and angry. And it's like, if I wrestled so well in the third period, and I just didn't wrestle well, and I didn't wrestle much at all in the first period. So that means that fear is unwarranted. It's illogical, it's irrational, it's not supported by the facts, it's not supported by history. Therefore, my actions should reflect that before the mat. And also remember, you wrestle a lot of matches, sometimes in practice, you wrestle 2-3 matches in a row, and you could do it. And it's because your body is ready to go. So you need to drill with someone before a match. When Cael Sanderson came back after an 8-year layoff in the 2011 World Championships, remember, he won a gold in 2004. He came back in 2011. Now, he lost in the quarterfinals, I believe, to the guy who eventually went on to win the World Championship from Azerbaijan. If you remember that match, that guy from Azerbaijan who Cael lost to, Cael took him down in the first 5 seconds of the match. Does that sound like a guy who's feeling his opponent out? Or does that sound like a guy who's imposing his will? He's imposing his will. So that's the mentality we got to have out there. Like I said, it really does boil down to intensity. You got to want it more than the other guy. And the traditional definition of hard work is not hard enough. Remember, people you could work hard in practice, but not work hard in a match. Think about that, because that's something I really wish someone would have brought that to me, because I always prided myself in being a hard worker in the practice room. But you want to think about it like in a match, be a hard worker. It doesn't mean wasting effort. It doesn't mean rushing, but it means, when you're in situations that require you to empty the tank, as an example, you lock your hands on the guy's leg and you're caught, right? And it's like, I'll just stale this one out. That's garbage. Watch the World Championships and the Olympics. If someone locks their hands, they fight like a dog to finish. Why? That might be the only time you get a bite on that guy's leg. When you get his leg, even if you're fully extended, you need to empty the tank. And if you don't, you have to seriously question why you lift weights. Why? Why am I lifting weights? I'm not just saying I'm not just saying it's strength, because obviously there's technique to it too, and obviously there's conditioning to it too. But why are you breaking your back with technique and with conditioning, strength, and technique? If you get the guy's leg and you're just content with the stalemate, there's exceptions to this, of course, but by and large, you got to get tough. You get that person's leg, you got to empty the tank. Or uncontested stand-ups. They get to their feet, and we don't not seriously trying to bring this man down. Now think about it. I heard Greg Strobel talk about this before, the former coach of Lehigh University, and he was he was also Olympic coach in 2000. 2000, one of the years, maybe 96, or whatever it was. Greg Strobel was an Olympic coach. Anyway, he said, imagine, let's say you're standing on the line, you shake hands, you have super speed, and you end up behind him in a mat return situation. You follow? You have super speed. You're the Flash. You shake hands, whistle blows, you're behind him, and you're standing behind him on your feet wrapped around his waist. What are the chances at that moment that you don't finish that takedown? Pretty bad, right? You'll do everything you can to return him. And this was the point of Coach Strobel. How is that any different from a mat return? No difference. Very little difference. I mean, physically, it's the same exact thing. If a ref might be looking to hit you with the stall call, it's a little bit different. But as far as physically, it's the same darn thing. So when you're behind the guy and he gets to his feet, are you really trying to mat return the guy? That's what I'm saying. Like, we got to start emptying the tank. So that's why the traditional definition of hard work is not nearly hard enough. It's not just working a little bit harder, it's working a lot harder. And that's in everything. Okay. So that's our 4 key ingredients to a pre-match routine. Dynamic stretching, same stretches in the same order all the time. An element of fun, deep breathing, about 20 seconds worth, 20 deep breaths or 2 minutes of deep breathing. Got to play with that a little bit. And then finally, hands-on drilling, which would be somewhere between 30 seconds and 2 minutes, probably closer to 2 minutes. And that's going to help. Now, you also have to be ready. It's good to develop also a shotgun routine, just in case, you get called up to wrestle, especially some of these early season tournaments. Sometimes these things are less organized and you might get called up to wrestle soon. So you condense all this into something shorter and tighter. But the 15 to 20 minute pre-match routine, that's something that you need to practice once. And I didn't even include this. Now, with that whole 15, 20 minute routine, what exact words are you telling yourself throughout the whole time? What is your emotional level like, your energy level like on a scale of 1 to 10? You got to know it. You got to know it. Are you listening to music? Are you not listening to music? Some guys wrestle real better with it. Some guys wrestle real better without it. Got to know yourself. So what I want you to do is the real work. I know I'm saying a lot here, but the real work is after this, probably, where you sit down and you script it out. That's okay. You script it out, right? So like 1.0, having a pre-match routine. 2.0, scripting out your pre-match routine, not just having it in your head, but scripting it out. And then 3.0 is you're actually practicing your pre-match routine. which means once a week, once or twice a week. At this point, it's probably twice a week because we're in season. Twice a week on your own, outside of matches, you should be going through, actually moving through your full pre-match routine as if you're going to wrestle. Now, I get it. If you're by yourself, you can't do the hands-on drilling, but you could simulate the hands-on drilling, right? But go through that. And the reason being is what happens is now you start to create the exact feelings and emotions and thoughts that you want in kind of like a safe environment where there's not all the pressure coming up. And then what happens is then before your matches, you start doing that pre-match routine and it feels like you're back at home or at your apartment or wherever it is that you practice your pre-match routine. So you're creating all this in a peaceful place where you're able to construct the exact thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that you want, practice it enough times, and then you do it before a match. And then a key point is that every single match you do this. I don't care how good or bad your opponent is. Every match is not just an opportunity to practice your wrestling, it's an opportunity to practice your wrestling mindset. And that's of crucial importance. If I was working with a golfer, you never miss an opportunity when you approach the golf ball to practice not only your technique but your mindset. If you're a golfer, you never just whack away. That'd be the worst thing you could do. You do your pre-shot routine, like we have a pre-match routine. You do your pre-shot routine every single time before you strike the golf ball. And that would be for a basketball player who's shooting a free throw. You have a pre-shot routine, same pre-shot routine before every single free throw, and that begins at home, right? So that's your pre-match routine. And like I said, that'll go a real long way. Any questions on that? So you got to construct it. Okay, so the next one is accountability buddy. This one's very straightforward and concrete. It's hey, everyone in the room should have someone who's an accountability buddy, someone who you trust, someone who you can really make sure that you stay on the ball with each other. You make sure that they're on top of you, you're on top of them. So, and it doesn't have to be someone who's equally talented or equally good. It's just got to be someone who you're going to meet with. And what you do is in your phone, you plug it in. 4 p.m. every Monday we're going to meet, whatever date or time works, and you check in, and then you see how you're doing with things. So this is where we have. So in order to succeed in wrestling, school, and life, we must do a thorough conscience examination to hold our. So basically, ways we hold ourselves back and good resolutions to improve in these areas. Okay, so for our accountability buddy, you have that. Well, now we do an examine for wrestling, for school, and for life. So, and if you see, this is pretty strict. So what I would do here is I would recommend circling these as I go through if it's something that you struggle with. So for our examination for wrestling, how is my effort, attitude, or aggressiveness? So in other words, if you struggle with any of those, I would circle it. And I would be, and in this situation, I would be more lenient with yourself in the sense of be quicker to circle things than you are to not circle things. Okay. Do I have great body language when I compete? Do I like wrestling? Do I practice the way I want to compete? Am I working on techniques, areas I struggle with? As opposed to, do I just work on things that I like? Am I coachable and open to critique and criticism? How can I eat healthier? How can I get 8 hours of sleep? How can I be more consistent with practicing lifting and cardio? Do I complete my mindset plan of life daily and weekly? Do I take time to improve my flexibility and stretching? Do I work on plyometrics explosive power training? Do I take enough chances? Do I ask coaches technique questions? And is there anything else? So if you feel like you struggle with any of those, which we all do, circle that area. Okay, so then we're gonna do the same thing, examination for school, because obviously, number one, it's like we are ultimately pursuing an academic degree here and future career, but also negative school is going to have an impact on wrestling. Negative school could equal negative wrestling. So How is my effort, attitude, and aggressiveness? See a lot of people who are predators on the wrestling mat who are prey in class. So don't do that. Are there any subjects I struggle with that I could use extra help, a tutor, or the writing center? Can I study longer or better quality? Can I spend more time on homework? Do I attend all classes? What concrete steps am I taking towards my college, grad school, and career? That would include networking as well. Do I understand the importance of learning? Do I sit in the front row? Am I a class clown? Can I take class more seriously? Can I talk with my friends less? Do I ask questions in class? Do I go in for extra help? Do I know how I study best? Am I taking good notes during class? Do I go out of my way to show the teacher that I care? Do I use my phone during class? And is there anything else? So you see, it's pretty strict because, if you ask, if I ask simple questions, I get simple answers, right? What's 2 and 2? 4. What's 3 and 3? 6. What's 890 and 512? Got to think about it a little, right? So if you ask simple questions, you get simple answers. You have to ask difficult questions. You have to think a little bit harder. Okay, examination of life. How is my effort, attitude, and aggressiveness? Do I smoke, drink, tobacco, party in a negative way? Am I in a bad relationship? Do I waste too much time with video games, social media, TV? Am I living my faith and morals? In what ways, areas am I selfish, lazy, jealous, lustful, prideful, or judgmental? Do I use bad language and dirty jokes? How do I treat other people? Am I reckless? Am I disorganized? Do I take stock in my appearance but not go overboard? Do I feed my mind with negative or immoral music, movies, pornography, images, websites, social media? Do I surround myself with a bad crowd? Do I always need to be right? Do I frequently go to negative or immoral environments? Am I wasteful? Am I consumed with myself? Do I procrastinate? Do I take myself too seriously or not seriously enough? Am I a perfectionist? Do I complain frequently? Do I hold grudges? Do I take care of the environment? Do I cheat or steal? Do I lie frequently to make myself look good? Do I gossip? Do I manipulate others to get my way? Do I get defensive? Do I pray? Do I attend my house of worship? Do I forgive quickly? Am I addicted to anything? Is there anything I should see a therapist for? In what ways do I waste money? And is there anything else? So that, yeah, that's good. That's a good cold slap in the face for all of us, because there's a lot that we could improve on, all of us, myself included. And it's doubly convicting when you're the guy who writes the thing and it's like, all right, let's get it together. But that's good, right? What's the biggest room in the world? Does anyone know? The room for improvement. The biggest room in the world, the room for improvement. So we're either growing or we're dying, right? We said that last week. A tree is either growing or it's dying. So is a business, so is a person, and so is a team. And it has everything to do with this question. Am I content with where I'm at, or am I trying to get better? So that's living the code. That's upping the ante. And this is the kind of stuff I'm pulling up the worksheet on my phone. This is the kind of thing you talk to your accountability buddy about. So now when you flip to the next page and you see right there where it's like, okay, my improvement areas. And you want to make a copy of this for your accountability buddy. In wrestling, what are my improvement areas based on that sheet or anything else that you thought of? What about school? What about life? And what's some good resolutions? What are some good concrete and practical resolutions, things you can do that will help you improve in those areas? So it's a big deal. I mean, this exercise can literally change your life. And what I like about these two exercises being juxtaposed is that you have the pre-match routine, which is insanely wrestling specific. And then you have this. So that's the micro level. And then for this one, we just zoomed way back. We addressed wrestling. We did an examination of wrestling, but we zoomed way back and we said wrestling, school, and life. Right? So we did a lesson that's very micro level, focused on wrestling, and macro, everything that could affect our wrestling, and not just wrestling, but our entire life. So this accountability buddy, this is a big deal. big deal. And this examination. And this is one of those things, my recommendation, even sometimes looking at some of this stuff in front of friends, it's like, it's a little bit tough to do. And there's embarrassment, and whatever. So it's like, my recommendation, I'd go through this again on your own when no one's around and go through it again and say, okay, now let's be real. Let's be real here. What's going on? How am I holding myself back? And then it's going to become very fruitful. And then you fill out this sheet of wrestling, school, and life. What's my improvement area? And what's a good concrete action, a good resolution? And then give that to your accountability buddy. And like I said, this is a courageous move. It's a heroic act. There's a real heroism here to look at yourself dead honest and say, yeah, some of this stuff's got to change. I got some holes, and I don't want there to be holes. That's a hero right there. That's a hard thing to do. And that's one of those things you never look back and say, oh, that was a bad idea. There's a lot of things you can look back at in life and say, that was a bad idea. You'll never regret doing this. And in fact, the sooner you're dead honest with yourself, the better things are going to be, the faster you're going to improve. And it's good for us, right? We reinforce one another. So that's a good thing. All right. Any questions with the examination or the pre-match routine? Good. Good. It's good stuff right there. So, like I said, yeah, everyone should be, at this point, everyone should be following our Instagram page, Wrestling Mindset. We got our Snapchat also, Wrestling Mindset, as well as our what's the other one? TikTok. Starting to post more on there. Yeah, it's just good because, again, the key is you want to get good information. Oh, and then also our daily text message. Every day we're posting on our text message. So if you text Mindset1 to the number 84576, you get our daily text message. So text Mindset and the number 1. So Mindset1 to 84576. That's our daily text. We have almost 10,000 people across the country getting that daily text message. So this stuff's free. And like I said, it's very important to take what people give you. And then, like I said, it's not just our page, but make sure you're following good things on social media. We spend a boatload of time on social media. If you get that screen time alert, once a week, you spend a lot of time. So make sure you're filling your mind and your eyes and your ears, everything that comes into you, with positivity, and it goes a long way. Like I said, it's about intensity and just operating at a much higher level than other people. Like we could literally make the decision on this team. We're gonna be more dialed in than a professional team. It's a decision. That's an act of the will. You choose that. So be that team. All right, let's go through our mindset principles. Call of the day. Number 1, I am thankful for the opportunity. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. All right, awesome. Good work, team. Be aggressive out there. Let's get it.